Center. All right, so welcome to Sam Shihab and Brian Burke's show with Sam Shihab and Associates, and thank you for the comments. And we've lost 3.5 valuable minutes, but we wanted to talk about the.
We're on the status of where the Build Back Better Act
So
is
where
at.
does it stand?
So no major update. You're going to see YouTube shorts with us as party hats on if they actually pass it, or maybe we'll go live right then for our live reaction. But basically, they're saying they're still planning to get it out by Christmas. But the only real holdout I hear about is Manchin, Joe Manchin. And Joe Manchin, I know he was meeting with President Biden sometime today. And, he has stated pretty clearly what he wants. He wants to keep the cost of this below $1.75 trillion. And he's concerned that, maybe there's some financial magic going on that's basically keeping the costs low. So he wants to feel really confident that this thing costs below $1.75 trillion.
But right, that's and then as we're talking here, obviously he is on right of center. He is basically the senator who could easily have gone Republican, as opposed to being gone Democrat, probably more likely independent.
Yeah, it's a rumor that dogs him that he keeps on getting asked, "Are you going to go change the Republican Party?"
Well, independent. I think he's kind of thought about going independent before.
Yeah,
he's not gonna. People in his area, they love him. He's from
West Virginia.
Virginia, exactly. So people, they love him. It doesn't matter what he does; they're voting for him. His popularity is sky high, and it's a conservative district. So he's not worried about himself. He's not worried about himself. And then we got people on the left of center. Also, they're not worried.
Yeah.
So any of those guys can kill it.
Yeah.
Now, here's the good news, though. I'm kind of the good news kind of a guy looking at the positive things. Manchin said that if the parliamentarian approves this, he'll vote for the immigration piece.
Yeah.
Which is huge. So there is no senator or a House of Representative within the Democratic Party that I'm aware of opposed to the immigration changes should the parliamentarian approve it.
Yeah.
And that's huge.
I mean, the big thing for me with Joe Manchin is, people are obviously there's so much focus on him right now, but he is, and Biden's even quoted saying, "Oh, I'm not sure we're going to get him on board," but he has stated clearly what he wants, and he's still at the negotiating table. Meaning, he wants to see it passed. He could basically say, "Not a chance in heck," and be done with it.
Right. Right. But again, I repeat, with regards to the immigration pieces, which is the legal and the illegal immigration, even the illegal immigration, he stated that if the parliamentarian approves it, he is not going to object to it. And it has the recapture, it has the green card superhighway, it has
all the good stuff. Yeah,
it has also the illegal immigration pieces. So it's huge. So I don't see there's a problem on the immigration piece if they can agree on the other stuff.
Yeah.
Now, will the Democratic Party fail to deliver, which will be disastrous for them politically?
That's going to be their choice. It's going to be either somebody kills it because they're not getting what they want, or they kill the entire platform that has so many things they want in it. That's what. So we're getting closer to Christmas, Sam. They're saying they're going to have this. They're doing this by Christmas.
But Manchin always said it's not going to happen by Christmas.
Yeah.
He said no, that's not going to happen.
We're going to keep on watching, and we won't dwell on it too long here.
Right, but the last point, and I know we need to move on, right?
Yeah.
The parliamentarian might speak this week.
Yeah, that's what we're hearing.
Right?
Yeah.
So this is huge. If she speaks this week and she is okay with it, wow.
Yeah.
But if she kills it.
If we don't hear from the parliamentarian in a positive way, I presume they're going back for version D, and or maybe I don't think they give up. They give up on anything, but they have to. Could draw out the process more. You'd agree with that, yeah?
So there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
Also, in terms of current changes, just a minor change in the medical.
Yeah. So on the adjustment of status medical exams, they're basically saying there's no longer a requirement that you submit the form within 60 days of it getting signed by the doctor. And that's good because technically speaking, you could, you don't need it. They last longer essentially.
So you can do it now and throw it in the drawer, getting ready if your part is coming up and you want to use the medical. Now remember, when we're doing dual adjustment, like we're doing dual track, EB3 and EB2, we just consult with your attorney. We may not want to file these medicals.
Yeah,
sometimes
there could be reasons for that. Yeah.
yeah, there's some strategy involved. So just don't go out and spend $500
Yeah.
doing medical without just consulting with your attorney. Just say, hey, listen, I'd like to do it. Priority date within 25 days. I'd like to take the risk and do it because 60 days, it can take maybe 3 or 4 months still valid, which is great.
The last thing that was on the list was the H-1B, the changes to the H-1B cap, which we'll mention briefly. There was a proposal by the last administration to essentially make it a bidding process. So the H-1B visas go to the highest wage, and the Biden administration was defending that up until pretty recently. And they basically have said, we're going to let this thing die. We're going to negotiate it out, and that change isn't going to happen. Yes. And I was reading some of the commentary on that, and one of the things was, obviously there's a certain appeal in drawing high salary people to the U.S. on H-1B visas. But what about the folks who are graduating from college with a U.S. degree? They're never going to be able to transition to a.
But there's some professions that does not pay them.
Yeah,
the prevailing wage.
Yeah,
insanity, like registered nurses.
Yeah, people you need, they're just never going to get as paid much as your, Silicon Valley IT person.
Researchers.
Yeah. So a smart change there. And again, I mean, even just people in the IT industry, Sam, they're always going to get the people right out of college, who they come to the U.S. and they get a U.S. degree. They're going to lose out to the guy who's, has more experience. You're never going to be able to get that, and they go back to they take that nice U.S. degree, they go back to their home country, and that's, talent lost in this country.
Absolutely. Agree. Okay, sounds good.
Do we transition to our substantive topic?
Yes, immigration violations you may not know about. We can spend a whole day on this topic. Unfortunately, because immigration law should be a lot simpler for normal folks to understand it, but it is not. So the first big one is the change of address.
Yeah, AR-11. So I hope everybody out there knows, and let us know if you don't, that every non-citizen who's in the United States, with a couple of minor exceptions, needs to let USCIS know where they live.
Within 10 days of moving.
Within 10 days of moving. How do you do that? You file a form called AR-11 on the USCIS website. If you move, you file that form, and that's that.
Now let's talk about consequences if you don't do it.
Yes.
Now the consequences are very harsh.
Yeah.
And therefore, it's not enforced very aggressively.
Yeah.
But it has been in the past.
Well, what's the don't Barry Lily? What's the penalty? It makes you removable, deportable.
Well, it's a criminal offense. It's a federal misdemeanor, punishable by a penalty, fine, and imprisonment. I think imprisonment of 30 days, maximum 30 days.
Yeah, $200.
Jail.
Yeah.
For not changing your address, buddy, in this country.
Yeah.
And you pay $200, but that's not the end of it.
Yeah, that doesn't sound so bad. Okay, 30 days in jail sounds miserable, but the $200 fine doesn't sound so bad.
Then you're deportable.
Yes.
Removable.
Yes.
It's horrible.
Yes.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yes.
It doesn't make any sense.
So what's the real exception there? So again, if you don't file your change of address with USCIS on 10 days of moving, you can be found removable. However, they won't do that if they find it to be reasonably excusable or not willful.
Yeah, so there is a big exception, but it's one that you really need an attorney, and it's miserable if somebody give you a notice to appear for not changing your address, and then you have to show that it's not willful. I mean, clearly it's not willful. You just forgot to change it, I mean, the standard is good. I mean, defensible. Willfulness is a high standard.
But I wouldn't want to be in. You know what?
It's a miserable situation.
As immigration attorney, Sam, my take on everything is this: let's avoid the problem. So everybody, if you haven't filed your change of address as required, please do it. You don't have to worry about being technically removable.
And if you cross that 10-day, don't worry, just do it.
Yeah.
It's been a decade since I've heard that there has been any prosecution under the AR-11, under the...
I am familiar of one case that I've ever seen where somebody has, you mentioned maybe about 20 years ago, post 9/11.
There was a lot of that.
Yeah.
But since then, everyone recognizes it's a stupid rule, but it's on the books.
Yeah.
It's in there.
Yeah.
So you will be deportable. You're subject to 30-day imprisonment. and $200 fine unless it's willful or reasonably excusable. Reasonably excusable, obviously, it basically gives the judge
Yeah.
an open door to kind of let you go.
Yeah. The one scenario I saw, it was somebody trying to hide where they live due to secure a better wage for a green card, as I recall. And basically, I think I read a court case about it. That was essentially, we caught you in concert with your employer, basically lying about where you were living and working in order to get a lower wage. So,
Did we add voting in it, or is it voting a subset of this?
I think voting is kind of a subset.
So in our mind, it's a subset, but it's a different requirement. Voting also, obviously, if you vote, and I mean, I think it's an obvious one, but there's an exception also if you're under 18 years of age and you had a green card since you were 16 years old. So there's a minor exception, but it's one of those things. Also, voting is a deportable offense.
Well, Sam, so voting is a deportable offense, and I would hope that none of our immigrant clients who aren't eligible to haven't voted. How does one get into that scenario, Sam?
Oh yes, my favorite. Yeah, I represented a client successfully in a deportation case a while back. I don't do deportation anymore, but 20 years ago I did deportation, and it was very unfortunate. I mean, this guy was dropping off his wife at the voting center to vote. And he went with her because it was early in the morning, nobody was around, so he went down with her because he was just walking with her, trying to be with his wife, supporting her to vote. She's a U.S. citizen, he's not a U.S. citizen. And these old ladies at the voting area, they said, "Oh no, it's your duty." They put a sticker on him, "I voted," and they pushed him down the line. And he said, "Okay, sure, yeah, if you think I can do it, I'll do it." So he voted, and then he went through a naturalization application. And they asked him, "Have you ever voted before?" And he said, "Yes, I did it one time." And that's all she said. Basically he was referred to deportation. We appeared before the deportation court, and we were very lucky because the judge was in such a bad mood, and she was so angry with the ICE attorney, basically the government attorney. Something happened before we walked in. She was so angry with him, and when our case started, we had everything. We said, we deny all the allegations. We asked the government to prove it. He had the evidence with him, but he forgot to bring the file to the courtroom. He said, "Your Honor, may I be excused to go to my office, grab the file, and come back?" She said, "No, present it now." And I said, "I'm not able to present it." She said, "Case dismissed." The guy walks. There's nothing I could have done to save him.
That's a victory I'll take, though.
Yes,
Now, Sam, you point out something. Out of curiosity, do you recall how long it was between when he accidentally voted and when he naturalized?
A couple of years.
I mean, it's immigration violations. I guess the point I want to make is they don't get you immediately. There's no I'm sure there's somebody out there who hasn't filed their AR-11 right now, and there's no immigration police pounding on their door. But these things can crop up years down the road.
I wouldn't worry about it too much.
I wouldn't worry about that AR-11 issue. Any sort of immigration issue, though.
If there is a problem with the person for something that is security related, they're going to go back and read every application you filed for the rest of your life since you were born and find a reason to deport somebody. I mean, that's a different scenario because that basically work to kind of find something to deport this guy. We don't want him in this country. He's a bad guy. But those are not normal cases.
Yeah.
For normal people like you and me, honestly, you forget, just do it. Do it right away.
Well, I'm just thinking about things forgotten. I mean, this fellow didn't know it was an issue until
it was the 911 era.
Yeah, this is true.
It was, and he was from the Middle East, so that gives you the whole flavor of the moment in time, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And, here's the most, for me, it was very emotional because his wife was out there, his children, 9-year-old and 11-year-old U.S. citizen, crying outside because I told him your chances of your dad not getting deported is so small. He walks out and he said the case is dismissed. The tears,
doing a little bit for me right now.
The hugs,
yeah,
And I'm like, oh my God, I'm at a moment of like overflow of emotion is just unbelievable. And I shook my head. It's just like there has to be a better way of doing things. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, this is serious business, and minor errors can change your life and your family life forever. So this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that guy was essentially being polite to a bunch of old ladies, and that got him,
Yeah.
it really cost him, put his entire life on hold.
Yes, it's crazy.
So we got to
All
move
right,
on. Move on to the next one.
Back to earth.
Yes.
Okay. So other immigration violations that you may not be aware of that you should be aware of, Brian.
Yes. So the favorite one from me right now is the classic H-1B status violation, failure to file H-1B amendments, and these are common right now. So welcome to COVID-19 world where everybody's working from home. I'm working from home. I don't need to file a new H-1B. Think again. I can think of a fellow who we consulted with recently. He was moving around the United States from home to home to home, moving around on H-1B status, and no H-1B amendments required. I'm working from home. Problem is, his home was in different MSAs. He moved all around the country, and that fellow certainly has a huge problem. He's been working with essentially unauthorized employment, not having an LCA for his place of work at home. So I guess the big point on this one is the H-1B, there's been some slight relaxing in some immigration rules due to COVID. However, the basic H-1B rules of keep yourself a valid LCA for your work site are still out there, and people are falling into this hole.
The site visitations are enhanced.
They are up.
Oh yeah, substantially up, very intense, and they are looking for them. And the unfortunate thing is, they will find you to be working outside the terms and conditions of your H-1B. They will talk to your employer. There's really very little. I mean, unless there is a major pattern and practice of violations, they can go after the employer. But the bottom line, you get to pay more than the employer. It damages you.
Yeah, you will be told your status, your next H. They'll send a notice of intent to revoke out if they really wanted to go down that route, or it might come up at the time you file your next H-1B extension. This is often time where it comes up. Basically, your USCIS might say, notice your pay stubs say you live in New Jersey, but your last H-1B says you're working in Texas. What gives? Mm-hmm. And then they suddenly start, peeling up the layers of this issue apart.
Now, where can you work? I mean, this is something that people don't understand. So there's something called MSA, which is Metropolitan Statistical Area. You can Google your Metropolitan Statistical Area online. It's a government publication. And you can find the map where you're allowed to work within this MSA. So if you move within that MSA, there's a posting requirement, but you're
taken care of by your employer. But
that's not a violation in terms of condition of your employment.
Yeah.
That's an employer compliance violation. So if you move from one end, there's some MSAs are very, very large.
Yeah.
And if you move from one end of the MSA to the other end, it could be as many as 40 miles away. You may be okay within the MSA, which is good news. And then there is language that says, and within reasonable commuting distance outside the MSA.
Yeah. So I mean, as this is where I can say, a good attorney can really, plead a case on that one. It's not, things aren't 100% so hard and set in stone, but we prefer to avoid those issues before they come up, and it's called, you can't stop thinking about your H-1B compliance. They have not relieved you from the LCA H-1B amendment requirements. You have to have an LCA covering your work site.
And if you're not working within the right MSA, you might want to consult with an attorney to understand whether you have a good, reasonable argument to where you're at, or it needs to be fixed. And the sooner you fix it, the better. All right, so that's the H-1B violation.
That's the classic amendment violation. Yeah. There's also the on that same note, there's the overlapping employment issue.
Yes.
Occasionally, you file an H-1B, a change of employer, you'll get one, or you file an H-1B with one company, you get an H-1B approval. Congratulations. You file another with another company. Oh, there it is. Get on the camera. And you have two H-1B approvals. And let's say, you're working for one company, you start with one, you work for two companies at the same time. Improper way to do simultaneous H-1B employment. Two full-time H-1B approvals does not authorize you to work for two H-1B employers at once. Agreed? Mm-hmm. There are special H-1B filings that can be done for simultaneous employment. you have to do one of those. Just because you have an approval notice does not mean necessarily that you're authorized to work for that company. And again, multiple simultaneous employers have to be done right.
Yes. So excellent point, Ryan. So investment.
Oh yes. So we have segued onto our next sort of issue. It's kind of related, but it's really unauthorized work.
Yes. Unauthorized work that you think it is work. So investing, and the first example, which is the most benign, is obviously participating in the company's 401k.
That generally permitted. Yeah, of course.
That's permitted, and that is called passive investment.
Yeah.
So when you have something called passive investment, it's permissible. Not passive or active investment is not permissible. And the line between passive investment and active investment is not a bright line. It is shades of gray.
Yeah.
And you can find yourself in these shades of gray, and you don't want to be in the dark shade. You want to be in the light shade, or maybe completely away from it would be in a lot better situation.
Yeah.
So what's another scenario that's completely impermissible?
Becoming a
apartment rental.
Oh, yes.
Rent apartments, right?
That's a great. So you buy an apartment, right? You buy a property. You're allowed to buy a property. You're allowed to buy a property as investment. You hope it appreciates in value. Great.
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly, you're renting the property.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, that's so then you're the landlord essentially. You're repairing holes in walls. You're collecting rent checks. You're looking for tenants, interviewing tenants.
You get the phone call, and your tenant says, "I don't have heat." So you go to Home Depot.
Yeah.
You get the heater. You load it up on your truck. You Google how to replace a heater. You are a mechanical engineer, really smart, and you know how to do it. And he said, "Heck yeah, I'm gonna do it." You call around.
I don't want to pay a guy.
They say it's $750 to do it. They said, "Heck, I can do it for 2 hours."
Now, Sam.
And you replace the heater.
Yes.
What happened here?
I think you may have engaged in unauthorized. There's a good argument to be made. You engaged in unauthorized employment. One, you're making money off the property, and you're doing work for it. Congratulations. That sounds a lot like employment to me. Well, how do you solve that problem, Sam?
If you did that.
Well, if you did that's
how you solve the problem? You hire the guy, and you don't do it.
Well,
you
yeah.
You hire a management company.
Yeah.
You retain a management company that does that for you for a fee. Obviously, a lot of time, and I'm not in the real estate business, and I'm in the lawyering business for a reason. But a lot of time, the management company's fee, unless you have a bunch of apartments, eats up all your profit, and that's the problem. Obviously, with some of these small investments, but you really cannot do it yourself because it's risky.
Yeah, it's kind of I mean, I've heard about this from people before, and it's basically, I never really intended this property to become a active investment. I was basically, I was going to buy it and move it into myself, but my work changed. I had to go away, and I still own the property. And then I said, well, I guess I'll just rent it. And then suddenly, again, you become a landlord, and all these things these incomes are going to appear on your tax returns. So ultimately, the government can ask you about this, sometime down the road.
So gray areas.
Yeah.
Well, one that's not very gray, clear, I think, is just buying stocks.
Yeah.
Just buying, let's say you bought a few index stocks. You bought Microsoft. You bought Google.
Yeah. Generally permissible.
And you're watching it, you just change, you buy and sell like once a week.
Yeah.
Is that a problem?
No, it's generally permissible.
Okay. So then you start doing trades every day. All right. What do you think of that?
I don't know, Sam. It sounds like you're sniffing around becoming a day sow
what is a day trader? A day trader, a guy that trades every day. I got the rules here in front of me, so
yeah.
I'm going to read them for you.
Yeah, why are you asking that question, Sam? Why are you asking the question?
So the IRS has rules of who is a day trader. And by the way, a day trader is employment, and it looks like you trade 4 or more trades within 5 business days. One of the requirements. Obviously, you're seeking profits from the movement of stocks, and it has to be what they call substantial. What's a substantial activity? We don't know, but I'm assuming you get over $10,000, to me, that's substantial.
Well,
To me,
well, I can interpret it differently. It's require. I mean, what if what if somebody buys a single stock, like the example we were talking about previously was, Amazon, or something that goes up a whole. You just get hit lucky. Something appreciates a whole lot. I can't really say your activity was substantial and you made a lot of money on it.
Right, but the day trader, I think you have to add all these.
Yes.
And so you have to be doing 4 trades per week.
Yeah.
You have to be seeking profit. The trades are substantial. You're not trading $20 every time. You're trading.
Your activity must be substantial.
40
Yeah.
grand. Okay, and you're doing it regularly. Now, there's no definition of what regularly is. So I'm assuming you've done it for 3 months. That's regularly. If you've done it for 2 weeks, that may not be regularly. Or you traded 5 days and you moved the $10,000, and then you stopped for 3 months or 2 months, and then you picked it up again. That's not day trader. But if you're doing continuously and regularly for a substantial amount of money, and then you're a day trader for the IRS. So it's a legal definition.
I mean, I think about these things. I think with my gut, Sam. I think if it starts looking like it's your full-time job, I think the government can reasonably, start asking you to say, well, you're here authorized on H-1B status, but gee golly, you're making, twice as much money on your stock trades. Well, congratulations, but it looks like that's kind of looks like a job to me.
And quite frankly, let's be honest, you're doing day trading and you've made nothing. They're not going to bother you because it's not substantial. It has to say substantial. But you're turning your tax return, and all of a sudden you're closing on $200,000 of profits a year.
Yeah.
Or $100,000 profits. They're going to say, "Whoa!"
You might be asked. I mean, I come up with like the Bitcoin scenario. Maybe you bought it the right time. It popped off, but
you're not
very yes.
Rates per day.
You might be able to depending on just because you made a lot of money on an investment. I don't think that's a reason to be concerned, but you might be asked to defend it, and then they start looking at the facts. So it's really fact sensitive,
and that's you in the gray area. That sounds like to me.
Yeah,
one side of it is pretty grayish.
Well, keep your hands clean. Don't make any investments. You won't make it. You won't make any money. You don't have anything to worry about. But that's maybe not the way people want to live their lives.
Yeah. And then the last one is the most painful one. I think we should talk about real estate a little bit, so we'll move on.
Yeah.
So the false claim to U.S. citizenship.
Yes.
Ooh, baby.
Well, there's it's a false claim of U.S. citizenship, and it's to claim federal or state benefits. But that's basically pretty much any false claim to U.S. citizenship is that.
Yes.
So how does one make a false claim to U.S. For U.S. citizenship, Sam?
Well, obviously.
Common places, I guess we'll talk about.
I mean, the most common one, unfortunately, is the driver's license.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're renewing your driver's license, and they mark if somebody's in a rush and they don't ask you the question, and they ask you, I think they're very careful. I mean, where I go to, they're very careful. I mean, I see them even though I've been a U.S. citizen for a couple decades or more. They ask me, "Are you a U.S. citizen?" Because I guess I don't look like a U.S. citizen for some people. But they do ask me, "Are you a U.S. citizen?" I say yes, and they say it because it says, "Well, where you born?" And I give them, I'm born in Kuwait, and they say, "Oh, wow, okay, are you a U.S. citizen?" But that's nice because they ask people. If they ask me, it makes me feel good because they ask other people. But there's other places they don't care; they just mark the box, or you're not reading and you're checking, and then boom. You made a false claim to U.S. citizenship.
Yeah, and that makes you deportable from the United States. And well, that's really. I mean, there's lots of places you can do this. I mean, one of the ones we talked about was a loan application. You're applying for a loan. That's a federally backed loan. You're applying for a federal benefit based upon that citizenship.
And this last week, the Patel case was heard before the U.S. Supreme Court.
Yes, that's an interesting one. Yeah,
it's an interesting one. So this gentleman in 2008, he completed his driver's license, and he claimed that he has mistakenly marked citizen on his driver's license application. When he filed his adjustment status, they looked at this and they said, "Well, we are going to deny you your adjustment status because you made a false claim to citizenship." And he said, "Well, it was a mistake." And somehow, I don't think they believed him, or they didn't care to believe him, because they said, "We don't care. We're not going to even discuss that. As a matter of discretion, we're going to deny it." And they took the position of course, Patel appealed it to the BIA. By the way, this case has been going on since 2008
Yeah.
until 2021.
Yeah, so I'm sitting here taking notes on what I want to say, Sam. The number I have 2008. That's almost, you're closing in on 15 years.
He's to the Supreme Court,
One-
and it's going to come down.
One wrong little box somewhere. This guy's life in the U.S. is put on I don't know what you call that, but for such a long time, a nightmare.
So the Board of Immigration Appeals, he appealed it to the BIA, and BIA agreed with USCIS, and he kept appealing and went to the Supreme Court. And the question is, and they've taken the position that the court cannot review that. It's not reviewable by court because there's certain parts of the adjustment process is non-reviewable and other parts are reviewable. And they say, well, it's part of the discretion piece. So the Supreme Court heard the case last week on the question of whether or not a mistake in filling a driver's license is within the purview of reviewability or not. And we're hoping that they're going to find out it's within the purview of reviewability. Now, of course, we have a conservative Supreme Court. It'll be interesting to see what they say.
Yeah. I mean, those cases. I mean, in his case, the driver's license, I just can't. It's a driver's license case. Yeah, that was a driver's license case.
It's a driver's license.
And
case.
what benefit was he going to get from that?
A driver's license. It's a state benefit. It's
That's
within
true.
The statute.
It seemed just so innocuous.
But for me, I mean, I guess it was flushed out. Does the state in that state does it say that you must be a U.S. citizen?
Yeah.
So is he really getting a benefit?
That's where my brain, because there's some states that allow you to have driver's license without being,
There's 20 states.
Is that how many there are?
Not even required.
Yeah. I mean, so without immigrant, yeah.
But anyway, so false claim to citizenship by mistake. I mean, the thing about false. I mean, also, by the way, the interpretation appears to extend beyond state benefit, even private benefit looks like.
Yeah.
So how many times you click I approve? How many times you sign contract without reviewing it? We do that every day. I do it every day. I mean, every time I download a stupid app, or every time I download the software, every time I upgrade an iOS. Now
every time I ask for a raise.
Every time you ask for a raise, I sign, of course, for Brian, and we don't read anything. Nobody reads anything. We live in a society. I'm a lawyer. I don't read everything. It's impossible.
You can't. I mean, you can't. You don't get to use the service, or yeah.
So, is there claims to citizenship in all these documents? Some of these documents. That's scary.
Yeah.
It's very scary.
And again, all you have to do is get on the wrong. I mean.
And if you say it was done mistakenly, they're gonna say we don't believe you.
Well, tell that to this gentleman who's been working on that since 2008.
Yeah, it's very sad, but yeah, false claim to citizenship is a big one, and also the other one is on I-9 forms.
Yeah,
if you are incorrect.
And just check that wrong box. You just have to be paranoid. You just have to be paranoid because
I'm sorry, but if your spouse is in college or school and applying for excited, apply for some kind of an aid,
in-state benefits or something like that. Yeah.
And then they ask you, are you a U.S. citizen? Or if you have a car accident and then they have you complete the form, you're under under 16 different drugs right now, and they say, well, can you sign this document? And you sign it, and
10 years later, your green card interview, they say, well, we'll look at this form, and you're going to say, well, I was under the influence. Prove it. Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, it's a dicey area, and it's an area that is very dangerous and very unfortunate. One day you're on top of the cloud, your life is under control, and a blink, and all of a sudden everything's crumbling, which is really terrible.
Yeah.
But those are the areas that we talked about.
We have one more area. One more area.
Oh yeah, big one.
Yeah.
Ooh, how do I forget about that one? I've done a lot of work in that area too, many years back. But Brian, go ahead.
So domestic violence, and basically to put it in a nutshell, a conviction for domestic violence in the United States can make you removable, deportable from the United States. But what does that include? It includes stalking. It includes violation of protective orders of court. Basically, I guess what we'd say is domestic violence rules for immigration are pretty broad.
Yes, and obviously we want to jump to answering question 637.
Yeah.
But domestic violence is a big area, and it deserves a lot of attention. Number one, within the immigrant community, it's a problem. I'm going to tell you that right now. We see so much of it because A lot of people come to this country, and a lot of people don't, but a lot of people do. Come to this country and they think they're living back home where they can mistreat their spouse, especially physically. And you can't in this country do that. That's domestic violence, classic domestic violence. And all of a sudden, you're no longer adjustable. It doesn't matter if your wife changed her
But
mind.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's too late. Especially if she called the police and you admitted to it, you're done. You're fried. I mean, there are avenues and ways that are very expensive, but it can be done. But obviously, is not a path you want to take. Secondly, you need to understand one thing, and I will conclude this in about 60 seconds. It doesn't have to be your wife. It doesn't have to be the wife. You don't have to be married. Domestic violence can occur with a significant person in which you have an intimate relationship. It's one. Remember that. So it's not okay. Well, she wasn't my wife. No, and it doesn't have to be touching. It can be done by mental abuse. So it's extreme, and it can be stalking. Pursuing somebody too aggressively can be domestic violence. So all these things can be serious stuff that you should be aware of that can not adjust you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not just I've never hit anybody before. That's you got to understand that the rules for domestic violence are a little bit broader, more expansive. And if I see a lot of scenarios where I say, oh, I just took a plea in court for a minor, assault thing, and it's the sort of thing where people should be consulting immigration attorneys.
Husband and wife coming back from Vegas. This is a story.
Oh yeah, I remember
Coming
this
back
one.
from Vegas. Lost a lot of money, and the plane got delayed, so they hit the drinks a little too hard at the airport.
Yeah.
And before you know it, they're into an argument, and there was push and shove, and there was police around. All of a sudden, you're hiring lawyers, spending a lot of time. Anyways, that's domestic violence. And let's answer some questions, Brian.
Yeah, we have some good questions already, and I say keep them coming, gang, because we like answering them. So again, thank you to so many of the comments in the beginning are we can't hear you. So thanks everybody, and we learned our lesson when it happened once before. Yeah. Let's see what we got here on the question front.
All right.
So from Manoj, I will be traveling to India using advanced parole. What should I ask the employer to do to get back on H-1B status after I'm back? I'm trying to be ready to file a second EB-2 I-45 after travel. A great question. So first level, everybody should know that in order to file that employment-based adjustment of status, you have to be in valid non-immigrant status. Meaning if you come back on advanced parole, you're coming back as a parolee, and you can't file that second adjustment of status
unless you extend your H-1B.
Unless you there's the answer to our question. So there's a policy by which if you're returning to the United States to your same H-1B employer, essentially they will allow you to file a new H-1B petition to get back in valid H-1B status. So the other option, Manoj, is you say you're traveling pursuant to advanced parole. It's if you get stamping while you're in India, you can obviously enter on your H-1B visa, and then you'll be in H-1B status for sure. Yeah.
Good answer.
Yeah. Let's keep them going. Here we are. So, not sure why they're sending multiple reminders. Also, if I wonder, multiple reminders. I'm not quite sure what that's about, and I didn't see.
Was there Chala? Was there a prior comment from Chala?
I didn't see one. Let me double check.
Chala, here's Chala.
A nice thumbs up from Chala, and I think that was in response to us.
I'm not sure why they are sending multiple reminders. Also, if I want to enter file to EB-2, can we address some officer that I have in the reminder letter?
So I think I know what this reminder letter refers to. It's got to refer to the. Everybody can see I'm wearing jeans now, Sam. I think the reminder letter refers to the medical examinations reminder letters we were getting a while back. Everybody was getting those reminder letters that say, "Hey, if you haven't sent your medical examinations in for adjustment of status for your green card case, do so now." I think that's what the issue is.
So he's asking, I think, is if I am sending my medical, can I enter file at the same time? I think that's the question.
Oh, I think one is why they're sending multiple reminders for these medical exams. if
If
assuming
your
that,
priority date is current, fine. If the priority date is not current, you're confused.
yeah.
Simple as that.
Yeah. And the second question is, if I want to interfile to EB2, can I address the same officer that I have in the reminder letter?
You can, but I'm not sure what help he's going to give you.
Yeah, I mean,
He only adjudicates what's in front of him. He doesn't answer questions or give directions.
well,
But
if you put an interfiling request in front of that, basically you have a
Yeah.
name to send your I don't to send your interfiling request to. I guess
if you're coupling it with the medical, I can see that because it gets processed by an officer and can process both at the same time.
Mhm.
But if you are just sending it to the officer because
You have a name.
it's just like any other way, you have to follow the instructions.
Yeah. That okay. I see.
But,
Yeah.
but again, I want to back out of what I said earlier. Maybe it's not appropriate to couple it with the medical to that officer. You have to follow the interfile procedures set forth by USCIS.
Yeah, I mean, the interfile procedures are basically sent it to the office where the case is pending, which seem to align with where you need to send the medical examinations. But I don't think you're going to help a case by addressing a specific officer.
But you're making the assumption that office is where they're sending their medical reminders. So assuming that most of the time, yes, but
Yeah.
not all the time.
Well, I see. It says. I mean, it says officer that I have in the reminder letter. So maybe.
Shala, give us a little bit more clarification.
Yes,
We'll
please.
probably break it up more.
So clearly, we have a little bit of commentary on what we're talking about here. Do we need to file AR11 for all family members? Yes. Your parents do it on behalf of their children.
Yes. And if you have a pending case, there's a place where you can put the tracking number of that case.
Ooh, an excellent point. So a practical reason to file your AR11 ensures you get your receipts and approvals for cases you filed with USCIS.
Especially your EAD card, which
Yeah.
is very critical. If you don't do an AR11 move, and also, I mean, we've had a situation recently with naturalization case. We were very nervous because they moved and they did not file it. I think they did file AR11, but they didn't tell us. But we were nervous about that. But so if you're going through naturalization, you move, you want to get your appointment letter to get sworn in to become a citizen. So AR11 always allows you to connect the address with a pending case with USCIS, and that's what you want to do.
Yeah. Keep on going here. I don't think that's a real comment. So there's Mohan's commentary on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Obviously, yes, it's an expensive solution, but yes.
Yeah, it's not an ideal one, but it's again, you've been in the U.S. for such a long time, and you have enough, some savings built up. You want to make an investment. Don't throw away, your immigration status for that. So, from Ragupathy Subarasu, I have EB2 and EB3 EAD, and if I move to a different employer, can my employer file a I-45J for both applications? If not, how do I handle the situation to retain both applications active? So, two I-45s, two supplement J's. Sounds like a pretty straightforward plan to me, Sam.
It really is,
yeah. Yeah. So yes,
you can do absolutely. Can do that.
Yeah.
And then again, I keep repeating this because it's very important. If you have a child who's close to aging out, the aging out calculated date for EB3 is different than the aging out calculated date for EB2. And you need to be aware that there is difference, and you need to be aware of what's that date and which case is good for you and which case may not be good for you.
Yeah, that's something you definitely have to think about when you're.
You may not have a child, but for those who do, just mention it.
All right, so let's move on to the next one. So, what is your guess about EB2 final action date for the January visa bulletin?
I'm going to say I don't think it's going to move too much.
No. So one of the things I got to mention is there was a final last hurrah from Charles Oppenheim at the Department of State before he left. He officially retired on December 3rd, I believe it was. Mm-hmm. He said basically, we moved the EB2 dates up quite a bit to see what kind of demand there was, and
we have a lot.
Yeah, well, and basically said there's a possibility it could be rolled back. And maybe to move ahead further. So I agree with that. I wouldn't expect much movement.
It's as obvious because I think, probably wanted to push it as much as possible. He's a very responsible guy. He probably felt that the transition is going to slow things down a little bit, and he wanted to get ahead of the game being responsible.
His last note is that he would help his predecessor as much as he could before his retirement on December 3rd, and then it's off to the beach. I presume. Yeah.
He's done fishing somewhere.
I imagine him on the beach. Then you imagine him fishing.
Well, on the beach fishing.
Beach fishing. I haven't been beach fishing for a long time. I enjoy beach fishing. So, will Omicron create spillover for 2023? How is Omicron affecting the functioning of the consulate? So that Charlie update, I got to give a little bit of commentary on this one, is basically the Department of State said, actually, we're seeing increased demand for employment-based immigrant visas from the consulates. Why? Because there's been so many people who have been frozen out, unable to get to back to the United States in order to file for adjustment of status in the country. So they're filing for green cards from abroad. So that's one thing where it's keeping demand for visas high at the consulates.
Not only that, but it's logical once USCIS shifts to final action date. And if the filing dates start to separate, now the filing date and the final action dates are extremely close, but if they separate from each other, it may make sense to pursue consulate processing. We've done that many years ago. We haven't even visited that in a while, but that is something that can represent itself.
Yeah. So, I mean, will Omicron create spillover in 2023?
Well, there's going to be a spillover regardless, because I don't think at any point USCIS have fooled anybody in saying that they can handle the volume of work in front of them.
This is true. I mean, one of the things, the whole Omicron, the spillover in general is because people aren't. I mean, the spillover comes from the family-based categories to the employment-based categories, because the consulates have been closed down for almost 2 years now at this point. Basically, not issuing family-based visas causes them to spill over into the employment-based categories. I can tell you that we work on family-based immigration as well, and we're seeing massive slowness at the consulates, backups at the consulates. I don't think they're exactly moving quickly on their family-based immigration cases, and that creates the potential for more overflow.
And not only that, but we're going to have wastage this year too.
Yeah.
But we're going to have to see what this. Again, I don't want to go back to the Build Back Better, but we have to see what they're going to do with that, because if they open it, I mean, if this thing goes through, we may find ourselves being able to pay $1,500 to file an adjustment status regardless. By the way,
this is true. Yeah.
And, just pay your $1,500 and file your adjustment. Whether you're going to pay your $5,000 later and apply for a waiver is a different question. But that's all going to be unfolding here, and then by January, anyways.
Yeah. So I'll comment. How is Omicron affecting the functioning of the consulates? Well, one thing I got to mention is the travel bans, though they're not directly related to the consulates. I mean, immediately when Omicron became a thing, they shut off travel bans for several countries in the region where it was first identified. I think that was in South Africa.
And anybody has been in any of these countries.
Yes.
So it's more.
Now that yes. So I mean that's an impact on travel. I hadn't really perceived any particular impact of Omicron on the consulates. I guess I haven't seen any real uptick in the activity at the consulates. It's mostly shut down, mostly emergency operations with emergency visa applications only. That being said, a question we have a lot of clients who are based out of India, and one of the questions problems we hear is people wanting to use advanced paroles because they can't get stamping. Some people are able to get stamping. It seems to take a little bit of persistence, a little bit of patience, but I'll tell somebody, your best case to come back.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, but don't
count on stamping.
Don't bet on it. Yeah, I mean, advanced parole, if you're not going to jump on EB2, or if you jumped on EB2 already, if you have the opportunity to jump on EB2 or do a dual path under the current circumstances, it's so smart to do. And then now you can go in and out on advanced parole. You don't have to worry about anything. But otherwise, because you have 2 advanced paroles, 2 adjustment status, in terms of having a protection.
Yeah.
Why do you like H-1Bs? Because it gives you a second protection. Give you 1 layer for H-1B. If H-1B something goes wrong, you have the adjustment. If the adjustment gets denied, God forbid, you have this H-1B. But if you have 2 adjustments, it does the same thing.
Yeah.
If you're capable or you're lucky enough to be able to do it, then you also have 2 advanced paroles and 2 EADs, so you have that dual protection.
Yeah.
and forget about the council.
So I guess what I will say is most generally I don't expect people to be able to get stamping when they travel right now, and which is it's okay for folks. For the record, it's okay for folks who have an advanced parole. It really stinks for those folks who are on just purely on non-immigrant status at this point. They haven't been able to travel for 2 years.
Yeah.
But people have been pleasantly surprised. I've been pleasantly surprised to hear from the occasion people who said, I got an appointment. I was able to get stamping. And that's a good thing. But you're right; it's don't count on it. So,
all right.
Okay. Well, Sam, I think we are at the end of our questions.
Well, sounds good. Well, done for the day.
I think
I get to go home early, which is wonderful.
Yes.
I got a call from my daughter. She needs my help in math tonight, so I'm going to come down and help her in Algebra 2.
Algebra 2, Sam?
Algebra 2.
Do you have your children gotten to the point where you're Sam's a one-time civil engineer,
right?
Right? Gotten to the point where that
it's over my head.
If it's useful at all, your engineering experience.
I need 10 minutes.
Yeah.
With a book.
Yeah.
I need 10 minutes with the book, and I can run with them.
Okay.
But I cannot just turn the book and say, yeah, I can solve this logarithmic equation. I need to go back and look at the principles and remember it, and then I can correct just about any problem.
I took my. We'll play with one question which I think is really great, and we'll take care of it before we go, Sam. I did calculus through high school, and I was okay at it. And ask me any of it now, and I think I'll need a book and a teacher and about a year in order to get back up to speed.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. So let's check this one last question for us. So, in your experience, what % of interfiling and refiling cases are getting processed quickly without any hassles?
Well, that's a great question.
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah.
Okay, so interfiling and refiling, meaning what's refiling? I understand.
Second
adjustment.
Yeah.
The problem doesn't happen until the problem happens. I don't think there's a big problem with interfiling. I think most of them get through okay, but.
I think he's talking about like how quickly, basically if I'm filing because if I'm doing one of these because my priority date is current in the other category, am I getting a quick result? Maybe that.
Which is better.
Yeah, which is or any of these going fast.
Well, I mean, the question, Sweet Seller, you asked great questions, by the way. The question really is difficult to answer in honesty because I don't have a statistical analysis of both of them. I can understand the weaknesses of the approach.
Yeah.
But in terms of is interfiling has been working okay and moving reasonably quickly? Yes, until one that blows up. I mean, I've had a case recently where he's saying, somebody's transfer in their H-1B, and they said, I've given up on my interfiling. I've called them a million times. Nobody is responding to me. I have no idea where's my interfiling is. So we have those cases where it's in dilemma, and then they're asking us to do a supplement J, and we advise them that you cannot do a supplement J because you interfile. And they say, oh, ignore the interfiling. I haven't heard, so it created all kind of mess and confusion. So some of them do create mess. But do I have a percentages? I don't have percentages.
So my take is, I don't really expect quick action on either of them because if you file a second adjustment of status, you're at the beginning of the processing timeline. And we talked about this about maybe 3 weeks ago when we did our big interfiling versus second adjustment extravaganza. But that second adjustment, the processing time for adjustment of status is 10 to X amount of months. I think reasonably you probably shouldn't expect your second filing to be approved before 10 months. The interfiling, I suppose in theory it's possible they get to that pretty quickly. In practice, I don't think I've seen a no. Is my short answer. Interfiling, quick result on interfiling? No.
Well, quick is relative. Nothing is quick.
Yeah.
Quick is relative. Nothing is quick. I did a quick short. I think 2 shorts. One is on advantages of interfiling, and one is advantages of adjustment.
Yes.
And but that's how far I can take it. Beyond that, it's really on the person, the case, the experience, the circumstance that leads to the path. And I can only draw the path that is least risky. But it doesn't. But we're dealing with percentages.
Yeah.
And probabilities, not actual statistics or numbers or hard figures.
Yeah, I'd say don't expect the my personal take is don't expect them to move fast. Maybe you're the lucky case, but yeah, don't expect a quick positive result. So Sam,
That's it.
Yes.
Thank you guys.
Thanks
Appreciate
everybody.
it. And until next week, watch for our shorts that we're releasing just about every day now.
Yeah, we're having some fun with those, aren't we,
Have some
Sam?
fun. Yeah, it takes only 1 minute.
For you.
And for you too, you told me.
Yeah. Okay. I'm a little bit of a well. Thanks
All right,
everybody.
thank you,
Bye bye.
guys.